Center of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities. And then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
In the spirit of God, in the spirit of the ancestors, in the spirit of the Black Panthers, in the spirit of Assata Shakur, we make this movement towards freedom for all those who have been oppressed and all those in the struggle. Yeah, check it. There were lights and sirens, gunshots flying. Cover your eyes as I describe a scene so violent, seemed like a bad dream. She laid in the blood puddle, blood bubbled in her chest. Cold air brushed against open flesh, no room to rest.
This is the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and we are continuing our conversation about what is happening in America, and we're about to get into talking about how folks are or can respond. So in recent weeks, we know that we have witnessed the Trump administration descending further and further into what is absolutely authoritarian dictatorship. Even as major corporations, right, law firms, educational, higher institutions of higher education, all kind of fold. We are, in contrast, seeing everyday people continue to stand up and push back, and there are very clear examples of how that is happening in very dangerous conditions in a place like Chicago right now. Joining us to talk more about mobilizing that's happening on the ground is our friend and political strategist Gabby C., who is working with a coalition of organizations who are organizing in communities and collectively planning actions that will allow regular people who don't agree with what's happening in this country to come together and demonstrate their opposition to this administration and their policy. So welcome back, Gabby.
Hello, thanks for having me. How are you, Adrianne?
Oh, I'm great. We're having a good time. We're having a good time in here today.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that earlier in the show, I lifted up and mentioned that our good friend, Ashley Allison, recently announced that her company, Watering Hole Media, has purchased The Root, which I feel like is, important in this moment that we have as many sources as possible of independent Black reporting, and so I know that Ashley's a good friend of yours, so want to let you know that we trying to make sure that folks know.
Good. I'm happy that they know, and I'm happy that she did it because we get outspent quite significantly, Adrienne,
right,
as you know, in media, and that's part of our challenge. So having more Black stories and Black folks in charge of media companies is a good thing, especially when there is a brilliant as our friend Ashley.
Right. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the ground. I know that you have been working with a group of coalition of, I'm going to say a group of, but it really is a lot of organizations who've come together, who've been together for a while, right? But in this moment, the reason for their being becomes apparent. And we've seen a lot of alarming actions from the federal government. So I'm wondering how the groups that you're working with, sort of how they're prioritizing how to respond, right? What are you hearing from folks in the network about what's most important to do right now?
You know what I think we're learning from folks on the ground is what is most important to do is, one, do whatever we have to do to keep our community safe and plan for us to be safe. And for us, we don't mean safety, and part of the tool of an authoritarian is to instill fear, right, to make people scared. But part of how we push back is by building community and being in solidarity with one another. And so we're seeing that every single day on the ground, community showing up for one another and saying, no, this won't happen, and not on my watch. And so part of the work of these coalitions like No Kings and Fight Back Table is to ensure that we stay close enough and our relationships are durable to attack. Because this is going to continue. We know it's going to continue. There's a playbook that he's following, and we have a playbook too, and that is about solidarity. That's about staying in relationship. But increasingly so, it's about showing up for one another in whatever way we can and not allow him to isolate us and wedge our communities and our issues.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, again, we were talking just in the last bit of, or the last whole hour, I guess, not the last little bit, with Tiffany from the Tribe in Chicago, and just describing what's happening there. And I think that she talked about the protests that happen at the detention center, the ICE detention center every Friday, I think. And they just get bigger, right? And I think that is, to your point, right, that courage will evolve more courage, right? And I think that's part of what you're suggesting here. When we come forward, I want to talk about, you mentioned No King's Day, and we have another one coming up. So when we come forward, I want to talk about the organizing efforts around that and how people can get engaged. Stay with us. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Dude, did you order the new iPhone 17 Pro? Got it from Verizon, the best 5G network in America. I've never looked so good.
You look the same.
But with this camera, everything looks better, especially me.
You haven't changed your hair in 15 years. Selfies? Check, please.
New and existing customers can get the new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most powerful iPhone ever, with eligible phone trade-in and unlimited ultimate. Any condition guaranteed. Best 5G source root metrics data, United States, 1H 2025. All rights reserved. Trade-in and additional terms apply for all offers. See Verizon.com for details.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
We are continuing our conversation with political strategist and founder and principal at C Strategies, Gabby C, about the upcoming No Kings actions and mobilizations that are going to be happening around the country. Gabby, can you just share with folks a little bit of background on No Kings Day, the actions that have taken place? I know people have probably participated in the last round that I feel like maybe was August. I know it was this summer. I can't remember.
It was in June.
Was it June? Oh my. Yeah. Well, that's how time is going. And what the purpose of them. What's the purpose of these actions that people have been collectively putting together?
Yeah. The purpose is really to send a clear message that in this country there are no kings. In this country, we're not ruled by billionaires. And in this country, people have power and have control and have destiny over our country. And we need to demonstrate that day in and day out. And so there are these moments where we get millions of people out in the streets. Our last No Kings Day, which was on June 14th, and the same day that Trump wanted to celebrate his birthday with a very boring military parade where you could hear a penny drop. That was the
the wheels on the tanks squeaking. Yeah.
It was still painful to even think about, and I didn't even like the man. But that was the second largest day of mass mobilization in our country's history. And so people are recognizing that what is happening is not right. But they're also recognizing that they're not by themselves. What authoritarians try to do is isolate folks and say, you're the only person that feels this way. But on October 18th, and folks can go to nokings.org to find an event near you or to create an event yourself, we're going to see millions of people out in the street saying, nah, not us, not this time, not on our watch. And we're excited to give folks an ability to express themselves. These events are all volunteer-driven. Folks are saying, I'm going to do an event in my community. I might show visibility. I might do something at my church or in my backyard. But we want to give folks the tools to express their activism and to express their defiance in this moment, because people are defying and resisting every single day.
Yeah. And this is, it's important to say, I'm glad you said that this is all volunteer. These are just regular people who have decided that they're going to say something, and that there is an opportunity to come together with other people on the same day, right? And to your earlier point, right, to be in community with folks, to say no, right, to find strength with people, in everyone being together in community. Talk a little bit about what kinds of actions. I think people assume that that the only thing that the only things that might be happening are the big marches, but I think there are other kinds of activities that people are setting up, and the thing that you just said about create your own, right, is a way to have other kinds of activities that people can engage in.
That's right. It's a full range of activities that folks can do, over 2,000 events across the country and the world. Some of these are big, gigantic, mobilizations and marches. We're going to be in Times Square in New York City and are equipping ourselves to have tens and tens of thousands of people there. Some folks are doing teach-ins. It's important that we make meaning of this moment and tell folks exactly what is happening, why it is happening, and how we get on the other side of this. So we see folks doing trainings and teach-ins. We see communities holding visibility events. That just means somebody is standing on a corner, or maybe it's an overpass of a highway with their signs that say no kings, or maybe they say healthcare, not authoritarianism. Maybe it says, hey, Trump, open up the government again and give millions of Americans their jobs back right now. You're holding the American economy hostage because of your bad decisions. And so what's really important in this moment one of the signifiers of a movement is when people can operate and have the tools to operate on their own and express their views in the way, peacefully in the ways that they choose. And that's what we're going to see on October 18th. So if folks are like, I don't see one in my community, or if there's the one that you want to do that is specific to your interests, your issues, your people, we encourage you to do that, because this is the day we're going to show folks that we're not taking this lying down, that we're taking it to the street. So and we're taking it to the classroom and the churches and in the airways and everywhere
wherever
we can
people
go.
want to be. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Tell me a little bit about how the coalition is responding in this moment of being threatened, right, by the administration, right? We know that this administration has, essentially declared that it's illegal to protest him, right? It is illegal to be in opposition to him. How are organizations addressing, right, the fact that, or how they deal, because a lot of these are membership organizations, right, or they're volunteer-based organizations, and they're saying, we don't agree with your agenda, we're opposed to your agenda, and we're not afraid to stand up. And this administration is saying, we're going to get you if you do. So how are the groups in the coalition dealing with that?
So one, we're not running scared. Groups are not running scared. There's a playbook to authoritarianism, and one of the keys of the authoritarian playbook is to retaliate against the people that oppose you. And we see that happening across the board. And so folks are, one, doubling down on their missions and saying, no, we are not going to be scared. We'll do what we have to do to safeguard our organizations and our members. But this is not a time for folks to step back. This is a time for folks to boldly step forward. And we see organizations, but more so everyday people, choosing to do that. But also, Adrienne, we had a really special moment a couple weeks ago, maybe just a week ago, when we saw this authoritarian attack a rich white man who talks to a million people every night in the Jimmy Kimmel, right? And there was a moment that was scary, because if they are coming for the rich white entertainers who are on TV and have a platform, what does that mean? But they overreached. That attack actually backfired. Disney lost billions of dollars, and a million people said nah to Disney and canceled their subscriptions. And we saw a little win here. And so, Adrienne, the one thing I want to leave folks with is that we're going to continue to see more attacks. He's not going anywhere, and he's not going to stop. But we will continue to respond to these attacks in kind and say, no, not today, not this time. We might win some, we might lose some. But what we're going to do is continue to fight. And that's what organizations are doing. We're continuing to fight. Folks are reinventing themselves. We're meeting the moment, because we never fought fascism at this scale in this country before. And while we acting like we know everything that's going to happen, we don't. But what we do know is that there is strength and power in numbers. And I think what's so much more important in this moment, and we talked about this before on this show, Adrienne, a lot of black folks who said, you know what, we did what we have to do this election, we're sitting back. And I get that. But we can't do that anymore, because black people need to see black people fighting for them. And so I really encourage folks, especially black folks, to be loud, to be visible, because what is happening is not right. And he's not stopping in any one community. We see that in Chicago just yesterday. South side of Chicago, a historically black neighborhood. And we saw ICE roll in there with tanks and helicopters, arresting children, our children. And so we need to be out in the streets just as much in the ways that make sense for us to show that we are fighting for ourselves and our community.
Yeah, and I think that the No King's Day, because there are so many activities that are happening, and you name them, right, whether they're teach-ins or they're just visibility, people standing out silently or not silently, right, on a corner with signs or participating in the large protest. I mean, I think all of that gives people opportunities to decide what kind of opposition do they want to be a part of on that one day, right? And you can choose, different kinds of things to be a part of on all the days, but you can make choices about what you feel comfortable with doing. And I think that that's particularly when we say, when we see what just went down in Chicago. It's not just Chicago, right? Like we in Memphis, in Washington D.C., right? Still here in Los Angeles, the need for for Black folks to feel like there's a different space that they can also now step into to say, no, we're not having this. I do wonder though about, because there's been so much, not just the sort of threats against organizations, but just also the concern about, surveillance and, what it means to go on a website and put in my information and say, I want to host a thing. Yeah. How are you all talking to people about that, about being prepared, right? Both for before the event, what they need to know, before they get to a protest. How are you all preparing folks around those issues?
So we're doing something that we've seen resistance movements do across the country, whether that was in Chile or Poland or in South Africa, which is train people and give them the information that they need in the moments and creating these opportunities for folks to be together. So training folks on Know Your Rights, ACLU has done a lot of work so folks understand what they have a right to do in this country and what questions they have to answer, what questions they don't have to answer. We're making sure people know what it means to de-escalate situations, because we know that they want to portray us as violent, but this has been a very extremely nonviolent protest. And that is what is without us even having to do the types of trainings that we're doing this time around, to equip hosts to be able to de-escalate situations and keep themselves safe. Our commitment to nonviolence isn't this feel-good thing. It's actually a strategy because we see that resistance movements are more likely to take back lost ground, right? They're more likely to reimagine the country that they want to be in if they are training together, right, and doing it in solidarity. So that's what we're doing to equip people and making sure they know what time it is, what resources are available, and that nonviolence is the way, because that is how we win and that's how we rebuild.
Well, and it's such an important point, because it does remind us, and I think that, we're trying to build a muscle that hasn't been exercised in a while, right? And so it's an important reminder about the discipline of the civil rights movement, right? The discipline that they had around nonviolence, right? And making sure that everyone was trained, right? That everyone understood the discipline that was required, and that those who couldn't, had to step out, right, and do something, and do something different. And I know that you all have been doing those kinds of trainings. Is there a way for people, if they want to be a part of those trainings, or find out who we're here in LA, right, but in their communities are doing those trainings? How would someone go about finding that out?
So they can go to nokings.org, and on our website is a page that has a number of online trainings that we have already done and resources. We had 250,000 people that got on for 3 online trainings, right? Yeah. And what's really important to train, to your point, Adrianne, around we're exercising muscles and tools that we haven't had to use, particularly at the scale. One of those tools is non-cooperation, the idea that we are going to refuse to cooperate with institutions and regimes that allow this autocrat to be in office, because a ruler can only rule if you bow down. There are people who are allowing him, that are equipping this government to do that. And what you're going to start to see people do is not cooperate with those systems. I've canceled, I don't shop on Amazon or Prime anymore. I haven't been at Target in a minute, right? We've seen people take these individual acts of non-cooperation. That is one of the keys that we are going to have to exercise on together, particularly as we get into election season next year. And we know he is going to try to do everything he can to stop, steal, delay, intimidate people around this election. The way we do that is the way we beat that back. Lots of ways we beat that back. But one of the ways that we beat that back is to stay in solidarity, to train people, and to allow folks to know that non-cooperation, voting, showing up for No Kings and other actions are all part of how we not get back to the democracy, right, because it was always imperfect, but how we have enough time to slow down our decline into complete authoritarianism and rebuild the country in the way that we think and we know it should be and how it should serve our community. So that's what we want to be. And we have, if we look at the Montgomery bus boycott, one of the largest acts of non-cooperation that was held down by Black folks, they tried many times to make that a thing, right? We tried many times, to your point about discipline. But it took a moment And it took organizations in that moment. And one of the reasons we see so many people caught out in the street is because so many things are happening and people want to express their activism and their rage and their defiance. And so we want to give folks as many opportunities to do that as possible.
Mm-hmm. And you talked a little bit about the midterms next year, but is there a way in which the organizations that are part of the coalition plan to engage around elections this year? I mean, obviously, in November, there are elections across the country, governor's races. We obviously now we have this huge, proposition on the ballot here in California, Prop 50, which is pushing back against the redistricting power grabs around the country. But are the organizations planning to engage in some collective actions around the elections in November? And I say that not just the sort of mobilization and making sure that folks are out, but also making sure that people feel comfortable going to the polls, right? Making sure people feel comfortable and safe dropping off their ballots at a ballot box, where there'll be engagement from organizations around that.
I was just in a room with about 100 national and state organizations that are doing just that are planning and ensuring that people feel that their vote counts. One of the things that authoritarians do, but also just the past several decades, right, of democracies not being responsive to our needs, particularly this one in the United States, is folks don't think that their vote matters. We have a lot of work, and you do a lot of this, Adrianne, and leading many folks here in understanding that this voting is one of the tools in our toolbox, and it is an effective tool in our toolbox. It is one of the most effective ones that we can have, particularly in this moment, because we still have a democracy. It is imperfect, but it is still a vehicle for us to express some change. And so I think you're going to see a lot of organizations operating on full cylinders in this upcoming midterm election. And seeding additional resistance and non-cooperation and giving folks more tools, creating new structures and new infrastructure, all those things. Everything is on the table in this moment. And they have to be. I no longer am the person that tells people things won't work. I don't know what's going to work. I've never fought fascism before. All I know is we got to try.
Right. Well, I think that the upcoming actions will be really important, and we'll make sure that we are telling folks what they can do, particularly for the events that are going to be happening here in Los Angeles. So, Gabby C., I want to thank you as always for coming on and talking about the work that's happening, the mobilizations that are happening around the country. On the other side, we're going to be joined by a friend of the show, my sometimes co-host, journalist, lawyer, and commentator, Noah Changa, to talk about the government shutdown and the implications for our healthcare. Stay with us. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. 50 months behind bars or more than 4 years in prison is the sentence for Sean Diddy Combs tonight. A judge threw in a $500,000 fine. Prosecutors called for Combs to get at least 11 years in prison, while defense lawyers said the maximum sentence should be 14 months or time served. He was acquitted of the top racketeering and prostitution counts. New York trial attorney Rebecca Rose Woodland spoke about this case to Fox News.
He's getting 4 years. He'll get the benefit of having served a year already in federal prison. He is lucky compared to what he did and what even the jury found that he did. Now, the judge said these were aggressive, manipulative actions.
NBC News reports the judge said this sentence was about sending a message to abusers. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
A crash in East LA has the left lane of the eastbound 10 blocked at City Terrace. 2 cars involved here. You can hit those brake lights starting at Soto in El Monte. You've got a big rig stalled on the westbound 10. It's the one at Santa Anita Avenue. Looks like they're over in the right-hand shoulder now, and it's going to be slightly slow as you pass the crash site. In Burbank, debris getting in your way on the northbound 5. It's right around Empire Avenue. Traffic moving fast through there, so keep your eyes open on the approach.
Do you really know what's in your tap water? We believe your water should support your health, not work against it. Upgrade your home with a LifeSource whole house system. Clean water from every tap, no salt, no hassle. Call 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com.
Warranty limitations apply. This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. Magic Johnson's Washington Commanders confirmed Friday afternoon that quarterback Jaden Daniels will start Sunday's game against the Chargers at SoFi. Daniels, who grew up in San Bernardino, missed the last 2 games with a sprained left knee. Look for Magic, a part owner of the Commanders, to be in a luxury suite at SoFi with Commanders management and staff. If you have Lamar Jackson in your fantasy league, you need to get a replacement for him right now. The 2-time MVP is not playing Sunday in Baltimore's home game against Houston. Jackson has a hamstring injury. Tough matchup for Tim Skipper on Saturday in his interim role as UCLA's head football coach. 0-4 UCLA is facing Penn State, the number 7 team in the country, at the Rose Bowl. 12:30 kickoff. USC has a bye this weekend. The Trojans are at home next Saturday against Michigan. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate, with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. You're inside the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
We are rounding out the show today by bringing back our friends and Anoa Changa. Anoa, I called you all of the things that you are earlier. Sometimes co-host, friend of the show, journalist, lawyer, social and political commentator. I want to thank you for coming on to talk a little bit about the government shutdown and the implications in particular for healthcare. So just to rewind for folks for a moment, the government officially shut down at midnight on Tuesday, I think, whatever September 30th was. I don't even know these days what time means. And so officially shut down. And so that the Democrats were attempting to ensure and continue to fight to ensure that the ACA tax credits that people need, the subsidies that people need to be able to maintain their health care, that didn't get lost, right? And because we have a looming health care crisis in front of us. I saw a post today from Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock, where one of his constituents had sent him a screenshot of their 2025 premiums and compared to what they're being told their 2026 premiums are going to be. And it was like an increase of $600 a month. And so there's real serious catastrophe potentially looming here. And so Democrats have been saying, we cannot pass anything that does not take into consideration these cuts that have been made to America's healthcare system. The Republicans refused to negotiate. They want to just continue with the continuing resolution, as it's called, the spending bill that has the same cuts from Trump's big, terrible bill. And so now here we are in this sort of moment where, food assistance, right, is at stake, right? I saw videos from the lines at airports over the last couple of days because they're not moving. There's workers, federal workers that are working without pay, and some that the president is threatening that he is just going to fire altogether. So give us your take on what's happening and what's at stake the longer that this shutdown goes on.
Yeah, I appreciate that rundown, Adrian. As we've talked about, earlier this year, as a former federal worker, my heart really does go out to folks right now who are in the middle of all this, right? And what's really, I think, there's so many things that are cruel right now in what's happening with this administration and the majority party, which, as we know, controls all three levels of federal government right now. So it's absolutely their shutdown to own.
Right.
But there was a joke the other day.
Let's hold on that point for a minute. How do you control the entire federal government? The House of Representatives, right, the United States Senate, and the office of the presidency, and then try and blame someone else when your government shuts down? Because
if I remember correctly, they had all three bodies as well in 2018 when there was the longest shutdown in history, also under Trump.
Right.
Almost 40 days.
Right.
Yeah.
And still trying to blame other folks. When, the reality is that the Senate could have passed it, right? They could have suspended rules and they could have passed their little bill, but they didn't do that. So this is not it's just delusion to suggest that this lays at the feet of anyone other than the Republican Party and the President of the United States.
Well, and that also says to me, because you're absolutely right? This is a group of people who clearly do not care about rules, whether it's the rule of law, rules within Congress. They'll push through and do whatever they're going to do regardless. But what we are seeing is, and folks probably know, and this is why they're lying about the health care fight, right, and claiming it's about health care for undocumented people, which gets people riled up about why would you waste my tax dollars. But they don't want the connection to be drawn to the fact that we're heading into open enrollment for the country, and premiums, not just for people who get their premiums through the ACA, although those are going up because of the enhanced tax credit that has been rescinded in the big bad bill. But also, if you get your insurance through the private market, through your employer, insurance is going up across the board because of the increased costs brought on in part because of this bill, but also because of the policies enacted by the Trump administration. There's some really good analysis I was reading from the Center for American Progress and talking about some of the other ways that, the tariff policy, there's just different things that the Trump administration has done this year. We're not even in a full year that has made health insurance more expensive. But what you were mentioning, though, about Georgia and Senator Warnock sharing that that screenshot. I saw it. I'm based in Georgia, so that actually made me go look, because I'm like, oh, my kids get their insurance on the exchange, and I did know that the credit was supposed to be expiring. But looking at it's a $460 credit monthly if you that's the max, and then it's on a scale from there. But like, they lowered the income limit for those people who are eligible. That's one thing that changed. But then, like, it's completely gone, right? Like, it's completely reduced. So you are seeing, like, huge increases. And if you're on a fixed income, or whether you're on a fixed income or not, if you are just like, you know, you and I both have kids of a certain age. Like, if you're in the sandwich generation, like, you know, there's so many different ways that this several $100s additional is going to be, you know, shattering for so many people, not to mention the additional costs. I also saw, you know, recently that Aetna, it was announced earlier this spring, but we were all focused on, you know, the bill and stuff, but Aetna has pulled out of the exchange entirely in part because of the proposed premium rescission. So they did this again when under the first Trump administration. So that means more people will have to then go find other health care. And, you know, when you have to switch health care, you might have to switch providers, the continuity of care. And just thinking about people who can't afford these increases, I saw friends just on my Facebook page saying things like, you know, I'm probably just going to have to and realize I'm not going to be able to grow old. I'm just going to have to die because I can't afford extra $300 to $600-$700 a month in healthcare. Like, who can absorb that? And and without any real notice. The wages aren't going up.
No one. And so people will start to make choices, right? And the choice will be either I am not going to have health care, and I'm just going, and I may have pre-existing conditions, right? And I'm not going to have health care, and I will get sicker. Or they're going to make choices about other things that they can't afford to buy. I mean, we know this. It happens, you know, it has happened multiple times, certainly, you know, under Trump's presidencies, where people have to make really life-altering choices, right? I don't buy this kind of food, or I don't get my medicine, or I don't. Those kinds of outrageous choices that no one, and certainly no American, should have to make. But that's kind of where we are, right? With what we're looking at, the sort of looming crisis, and this immediate crisis, right? With the shutdown. I just think that there's a the continued we talked about, you know, corporations and, you know, universities and law firms, you know, sort of not being able to stand up to Trump. But it will be fascinating to see whether or not these Republican members of Congress, whether they're in their House and the Senate, can continue to withstand when on the one side they have the Trump administration, and on the other side they have their constituents. So whoever it is that they think that, you know, they're hurting, that isn't their people, the reality is that the Republicans in Congress are hurting their own constituents. Obviously, Trump is hurting his own constituents, but something's got to give one way or the other. Either you tell your constituents that you do not care about them, right, at all, and to beat it, right, or you tell the president of the United States and the head of your party that he has to do something different. On the other side, I want to continue this conversation. I want to talk about a little bit some other news of the week that I have mentioned throughout the course of the show, but want to just get your opinion and your take on it. So when we come forward, we'll continue our conversation with Anoa Changa.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
There's nothing like when you get that part from eBay and it just fits. Yeah, the first time. So you can do less of this and get right back to more of this. At eBay, you'll find all the parts you need, guaranteed to fit, at prices you'll love. Sounds good, doesn't it? eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
We are continuing our conversation with Anoa Changa about the government shutdown and all things related to that. So there's a couple of other sort of ridiculous things, Anoa, that I want to just lift up about. Obviously, there's very serious pain, right, being caused because of this shutdown. Not just the healthcare scare, food, nutrition assistance, people that are receiving nutrition assistance that will be impacted. The loss of jobs. I think they're saying that 750,000 people will be furloughed a day, right, during the shutdown. But some of those people in some of the agencies that have been furloughed, checked their email when the shutdown happened and found out that the government had put their own out of office reply on their emails, right? You go on vacation or you get furloughed, you put an out of office reply, an automatic reply on your email to say I'm out of the office, right? And these out of office replies were partisan and blamed Democrats for the shutdown. Now, so first of all, that just seems wrong on so many levels, right? That people's email accounts are being hijacked to send out a partisan message. But I think it's also illegal. I think I said this to you the other day. I was like, is this not a Hatch Act violation? And you were funny because you were like, I think the whole administration is a Hatch Act violation.
I mean, Adrianne.
Yes.
We were talking about this yesterday in the context of HUD having that ridiculously wild message, right, about the radical left is going to shut down the government. I think I saw someone say the USDA or another website had a similar message the other day. And now we're getting this news that I think it was staff at the Department of Education, maybe some other departments, like had someone go in and change. So, and then, so aside from the Hatch Act, there also are some possible indications of or implications in terms of just like internal record keeping regulations that exist within the federal government, right? And in terms of being able to access when you can't access people's emails and things of that nature, right? But there's so much so wrong. And I saw someone say, like, even if it is a Hatch Act violation or even if it is one of these violations, like, the usual watchers aren't there anymore because they've been working to fire, remove, replace. And again, it's an entire administration that does not care about the rules because there are rules for everyone else and not for them. Because had this been something that happened during the Biden administration or heaven forbid, Obama or anyone else, or if we had actually had President Harris, there would be like screaming murder, like people would be so upset right now and outrage. Well, people as in the right will be outraged, right? Because they always have that false outrage when it's everyone else but themselves. But what you're talking about too, Adrian, is like this broader propaganda war that the Trump administration has been waging in using this language around the radical left, which is the inflammatory language we know that comes out of far right, simple campaigns in media, as a way to gin up the base. Like it doesn't make sense. It's the same thing with the racist AI video that Trump shared about Representative Hakeem Jeffries, or like I was referencing earlier, like they also have like this very sick sense of humor. It's not even a sense of humor; it's just sadistic. There was a post the other day on the White House official page, which has been unhinged since the beginning, but it had this really crappy graphic. Said, our social media person was furloughed, but our social media policy isn't, or something like that. Like, they are kind of playing around like it's ha-ha, he-he, but this is very, very real. Yeah. And, this attack on the ACA premiums, this is another way that the right is trying to get at undoing the ACA, which they've been unsuccessful at doing in the past 15 years.
Right, as they've tried to rescind it, I don't even know how many times, right? They've tried to rescind it
so many times, but now, like, causing these pain points and making people, upset without any real awareness. Like, I was just looking at some polling from Kaiser Family Foundation, and they were saying that most people who benefit from the ACA aren't even aware that the tax premiums are on the table, to possibly expire at the end of December. And so that's what they're hoping for, that people don't know what's going to happen, and that they can hide behind this bombastic language to deflect.
Right. Well, I think the one of the other things that we're not going to know about, so when we talk about, up to 750,000 people not receiving a paycheck. So, I mean, the impact on the economy will be significant, but we're not going to get it. We didn't get a jobs report today. And people will recall that the Office of Bureau of Labor Statistics has been under tremendous scrutiny. Trump got rid of the head of the BLS office because he didn't like the fact that she was putting out reports that talked about the actual, economy and that it's not good. He tried to replace her, and they said, well, we're probably going to have delays because we've got a same thing that you talked about, propaganda. We're going to have to figure out what, like, these partisan people that are making the jobs numbers look bad because they want the president to look bad. So we didn't get a jobs report today, and they said it's because of the government shutdown, right? But the reality is, I think we know that this economy is bad, and they make it worse with all the different kinds of terrible decisions that they've made and policies that they put in place. We do know, though, that ADP put out a report just the other day saying that the U.S. lost 32,000 private sector jobs in September. So we may not have the jobs report from the government, but we do have other sources of reporting that give us a sense of the complete and total damage, the dismantling almost, right, of the U.S. economy that this president and his administration are doing.
Yeah, and I mean, some people might say, like, but why would they do that? Because these people literally don't care. They want to raise the field and just have it be a very focused landscape for them to do whatever they want to do. They want to send us back. I thought of something like from planters to tech bros recently, right? We talked about the planter class, like in before the Industrial Revolution, and also that's the slaveholder class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting back to that with this tech bro, billionaire class wannabes, just really trying to eradicate wages, make it impossible for people to have really the wherewithal to stand up and resist what is happening right now. And it's really disconcerting, and so many people have voted for this and are now kind of seeing how it impacts them a little bit, maybe.
Right.
But who knows if it's really enough to change things longer term.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we know that, that farmers are now trying to, figure out ways to get into mediation with their lenders so that they don't have to go into bankruptcy because they have no markets to sell their products to.
Because China won't take the soybeans.
Right. That's right. But this is, I think that to your point, this is sort of the, do the pain points, and this is the point I was making too about the Republican members of Congress, do the pain points at home, right, make it enough that they back off, that they say, okay, we're actually gonna try and show at least a little bit of backbone.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we look at places like my former home state of West Virginia and other places around the country that are really going to be detrimentally impacted. And it's not just people's individual health premiums. When we have uninsured people, we have an increased reliance on emergency rooms and emergency care. We've already seen a rural hospital closure crisis in this country the last decade, and it's only going to worse. And then also some of the funding cuts and stuff that happened will impact the ability of these hospitals systems around the country to be able to just treat the existing populations they already have, not to mention those who might come into the fold because of the lack of insurance. So it is a crisis awaiting our families and communities, and it's
it's a mess. It's a mess. And hopefully they come to some, we need to get the government back open. So hopefully they figure out a way to save face by giving the Democrats this victory, which is really a victory not for Democrats but for the American people. They figure out a way to get themselves to that point. But no, I want to thank you for coming on and talking about this. I was trying to avoid talking about it, but clearly it was not an avoidable discussion for today. But I appreciate you coming on and joining. Absolutely. And I, of course, appreciate you all for tuning in on a Friday afternoon with us here at the Black Pack. We will be back, as always, Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. Have a great weekend.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Sean Diddy Combs is not going back home tonight, but back to a prison cell. After a full day of statements from victims and Combs' family, he was sentenced to a little more than 4 years. He is also required to pay a fine of $500,000. New York trial lawyer Rebecca Rose Woodland told Fox News she believes Combs' pleading for mercy made an impression on the judge.
The judge took into account that he has a family, he has an elderly mother, and that I guess he balanced a bit of the remorse and believed some